The Grand Symposium of Xenobiological Studies was broadcast across 17,000 star systems, a spectacle that drew billions of viewers from countless civilizations. At the center of the holographic auditorium, Professor Klurix of the Andromeda Research Collective stood before a massive, swirling projection of what was supposedly the most mythical and impossible planet in known space, Earth. Ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary entities of the Galactic Confederation, Klurix began, his four eyes blinking in synchronized mockery. Today we examine the most preposterous myth in our collective scientific history. A planet so ludicrously hostile that its very existence defies all known principles of life. The holographic display erupted with violent imagery. Massive volcanoes spewed molten rock against backdrops of razor-sharp mountain ranges. Electrical storms tore across landscapes that seemed more like battlefield nightmares than planetary surfaces. Predatory creatures with impossible configurations lunged and fought in ecosystems that appeared designed by a mad architect of destruction. Klurix's audience, a collection of the galaxy's most prestigious scientists, laughed. It was a multilingual symphony of derision, each species contributing its unique form of contemptuous vocalization. Crystalline beings resonated with high-pitched chimes of ridicule. Gaseous entities pulsed with waves of dismissive energy. Silicon-based intelligences flickered with contemptuous light patterns. Consider, Klurix continued, his tentacle-like appendages manipulating holographic data, a planet with atmospheric pressure that crushes, temperatures that swing from frozen death to scorching annihilation, geological activity that would tear apart any stable ecosystem, and predatory life forms that make our most aggressive species look like passive nutritional units. The presentation reached a crescendo of scientific ridicule. Charts and graphs demonstrated the statistical impossibility of any intelligent life forming under such conditions. Mathematical models proved, with what the presenters considered irrefutable logic, that no species could possibly evolve, let alone survive, on such a nightmarish world. What the audience didn't know was that Dr. Aria Chin was watching. And she was done being silent. With a series of rapid keystrokes that would later be analyzed as a masterpiece of computational infiltration, Aria hacked the entire galactic broadcast. The holographic projection flickered, causing a collective gasp from the audience. Where Professor Klurix had been standing, a new figure now appeared. Aria Chen stood in full expedition gear, her suit bearing the scars of countless environmental challenges. Mud caked her boots. Burn marks traced the edges of her protective jacket. A collection of specimen containers hung from her utility belt, each one containing something that moved, pulsed, or quietly defied conventional understanding. "Cut the bullshit," she said, her voice cutting through the translation algorithms with a clarity that felt like a physical impact. The universal translator worked overtime, converting not just her words but the raw contempt behind them. Scientists from 1,000 worlds leaned forward, some in horror, some in fascination. Behind her, the holographic display transformed. No longer were these images of destruction. They were images of life. Children played in what should have been toxic mud. Farmers cultivated crops in soil that would poison any other known species. Cities rose from landscapes that should have been uninhabitable. "You want to talk about Earth?" Aria's voice dripped with a combination of scientific precision and barely contained fury. "Let me tell you about a planet that doesn't just survive, it innovates. A world where every impossible condition is just another problem to solve." She reached into one of her specimen containers and pulled out a small organism. It looked unremarkable. A tiny creature that seemed more like a collection of cellular accidents than a coherent life form. With practiced movements, she exposed it to a series of environmental extremes: freezing temperature, intense radiation, acidic conditions. The organism not only survived, it adapted. "This," she said, holding the specimen up, "is from a mud puddle in what you'd call an uninhabitable region of Earth. It's been alive for millions of years. It has seen conditions that would obliterate your most advanced species, and it's still here. In the control room of the Galactic Symposium, technicians scrambled. Administrators demanded the broadcast be cut. But Aria had already ensured her message would be heard. This was humanity's first response to a galaxy it had spent millennia mocking a world they didn't understand. And it was just the beginning. The diplomatic shuttle of the Galactic Confederation descended through Earth's atmosphere, its advanced shielding systems working overtime. Commander Zornak, a towering Veloxian scientist whose reputation for xenological research was matched only by his arrogance, gripped the navigation console with all four of his muscular appendages. Preliminary atmospheric analysis confirms our worst projections, his lead technician reported, her voice trembling. Particulate density, radiation levels, chemical volatility. This environment is a death trap. Zornak's exoskeleton clicked with anticipation. This mission was the culmination of his life's work, a definitive expedition to prove the impossibility of life on the legendary Deathworld. His research had been the subject of countless academic papers, symposiums, and now, finally, a direct investigation. The shuttle's landing sequence was a marvel of technological precision. Multiple redundant systems engage, creating a cocoon of protective energy around the vessel. Each of the 12 alien researchers wore environmental suits that represented the pinnacle of galactic protective technology. Multilayered molecular shields, adaptive atmospheric filters, quantum-stabilized life support systems. They were prepared for anything. Or so they thought. As the shuttle's doors hissed open, the first wave of sensory input hit them like a physical force. The air wasn't just breathable, it was alive. Complex molecular interactions danced around them, a symphony of biological potential that their sensors struggled to comprehend. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the human liaison assigned to the expedition, stood waiting. She wore standard field clothing, a lightweight jacket, durable pants, hiking boots. No environmental suit, no additional protection. "Welcome to Earth," she said, a slight smile playing on her lips. Zornak's lead technician, Tickle, was the first to speak. "Your protective gear," she began, before catching herself. Elena simply walked forward, gesturing for them to follow. The alien delegation moved with extreme caution, each step calculated, their suit systems running constant environmental analyses. They were heading toward a small settlement, not a fortified research base, not a carefully maintained scientific outpost, just a normal community. Children played outside. The alien researchers froze. Children, playing, directly exposed to an environment that their most advanced calculations had deemed instantly fatal. A young boy kicked a ball near a patch of ground that Tickle's suit identified as containing a concentration of heavy metals that should have been instantly toxic. Another child picked up a handful of soil, examining something small and wriggling. "Impossible," Zornak muttered. Elena continued walking, seemingly unaware of the profound existential crisis unfolding behind her. "We're heading to the community center. There's a local farmer who'd like to show you something interesting about our agricultural techniques." The farm was nothing like the sterile, controlled environments of galactic agriculture. It was messy, chaotic, alive. The soil itself seemed to be in constant motion, not from machinery, but from biological activity. Microorganisms, insects, complex ecological interactions that defied every known principle of agricultural science. Old Miguel, the farmer, stood among his crops. He was perhaps 70 years old, skin weathered by decades of outdoor work. He raised a hand in greeting, then casually picked up a root vegetable and took a bite. Radiation levels in that produce are 300% higher than any safe galactic standard. Tickle whispered to her colleagues, her suit's sensors working frantically. Miguel just winked. The real test came without warning. A seismic event, what humans would casually call an earthquake, began to rumble through the landscape. The alien delegation's technological systems went into immediate protective mode. Quantum shields activated, stabilization fields engaged. Their suits sealed completely, cutting off all external interaction. The humans, They kept moving. Delina grabbed a radio. Local emergency response. This is Rodriguez. Looks like a 5.2 near the West Ridge. Coordinate rescue operations. No panic. No fear. Just efficiency. As dust rose and ground shifted, the alien researchers watched in absolute shock. Local residents moved with coordinated precision. Heavy equipment was mobilized. Communication networks activated. They weren't just surviving. They were thriving. Zornak's carefully constructed worldview began to crack, piece by piece. This was not what anyone had expected. And they were just getting started. The expedition began at the edge of the Amazon rainforest, a location Dr. Aria Chen had chosen with calculated precision. Marco Rodriguez stood beside her, his military-trained eyes scanning the dense vegetation with a predator's intensity. 63 distinct ecosystems within a 1-kilometer radius, Aria muttered, checking her handheld analyzer. Each one more complex than most planets' entire biospheres. The alien researchers, led by Zornak, and including the skeptical Tickle, looked decidedly uncomfortable. Their advanced suits, which had seemed like the pinnacle of technological protection just days ago, now felt like fragile bubbles of uncertainty. Marco approached the group, his movements a study in controlled efficiency. First rule of survival, he announced, is understanding that your environment is neither enemy nor friend. It's a complex system you need to negotiate with. The first day's challenge seemed simple: cross a section of rainforest while collecting biological samples. For the alien researchers, it was anything but simple. Tkull's environmental suit began to malfunction almost immediately. Microscopic organisms, too small to be detected by their initial scans, began to interact with the suit's molecular structure. Adaptive fungi started breaking down the suit's outer layers, while complex bacterial colonies created electrical interference with the suit's systems. "This is impossible," Tickle muttered, her suit's cooling systems failing. Aria just smiled. "Nature doesn't care about your definition of possible." Marco demonstrated survival techniques that seemed to defy conventional logic. Where the alien researchers saw obstacles, he saw opportunities. A venomous snake that would have triggered complete panic became a lesson in ecological interaction. He caught the creature with practiced ease, explaining its role in the ecosystem's delicate balance. "Every organism here is a specialist," he told the increasingly bewildered alien scientists. "Venom isn't just a weapon. It's a complex biochemical system that's evolved over millions of years." The expedition's second day brought its first true test. A sudden tropical storm erupted, the kind of environmental event that would have sent most species scrambling for shelter. The alien researchers immediately activated full defensive protocols, their suits creating impenetrable energy barriers. The humans? They kept moving. Aria collected samples in waterproof containers, her movements precise and unhurried. Marco used local vegetation to create improvised shelters, showing the alien researchers how understanding trumps pure technological protection. "Look," he said, pointing to a small plant. "This species has developed a way to collect and purify water during extreme rainfall. It's not just surviving, it's thriving." The most shocking moment came unexpectedly. A rare predatory species, a combination of jaguar and something that defied easy classification, approached the group. The alien researchers' suits went into complete lockdown, preparing for what they assumed would be an immediate threat. Marco didn't move. Instead, he made a series of almost imperceptible movements, a slight adjustment of posture, a specific pattern of breathing. The predator stopped, studied him, then simply walked away. Communication isn't just verbal, Marco explained to the stunned alien scientists. It's about understanding the entire ecological language. Zornak's scientific worldview was crumbling moment by moment. These humans weren't just surviving in an impossible environment. They were part of it. The day's final challenge came from an unexpected source. A venomous insect, small, almost insignificant, struck one of the alien researchers. Their suits' systems immediately began emergency protocols, preparing for complete biological shutdown. Arya approached calmly. "Wait," she said, examining the insect and the point of contact. Within moments, she had created an improvised antidote using local plant materials. The alien researcher watched in shock as the venom was neutralized through a combination of biochemical knowledge and rapid adaptation. "Your body is an ecosystem," Arya explained. "Not a fortress to be defended, but a dynamic system that can negotiate with its environment." As night fell, the alien researchers huddled in their increasingly compromised suits. The humans moved about the camp with casual efficiency, building fire, preparing food, maintaining watch. Zornak looked at Arya, a mixture of fear and profound respect in his multiple eyes. "What are you?" he asked. Arya just smiled. "We're human," she responded. "And we're just getting started." The Amazon rainforest continued its ancient, complex dance around them, a silent witness to a paradigm about to be shattered. The Galactic Research Facility hung in orbit around Earth, a massive spherical structure that represented the pinnacle of scientific observation technology. Inside its central analysis chamber, Dr. Arya Chin prepared for a presentation that would redefine everything the galaxy thought it knew about biological adaptation. Zornak and his team watched with a mixture of scientific curiosity and barely contained skepticism. The chamber itself was a marvel of isolation technology, capable of containing and analyzing the most dangerous biological specimens in the known universe. "What you're about to see," Arya began, her voice calm and precise, "is not a magic trick. It's not an illusion. It's the result of millions of years of evolutionary problem-solving." Holographic displays erupted around her, three-dimensional representations of human DNA that pulsed and moved with an almost living quality. Unlike the static genetic models of other known species, this DNA seemed to breathe, to flex, to anticipate. Marco Rodriguez stood to one side, his military background evident in his rigid posture. But there was something else in his stance, a coiled potential, like a living weapon waiting to be understood. Arya zoomed in on a specific genetic sequence. "Most species have a relatively static genetic code," she explained. "Mutations occur slowly. Adaptations take generations. Humans, we're different." The hologram began to demonstrate extraordinary cellular behaviors, genetic markers that could reshape themselves in real time. Cellular structures that could rapidly reconfigure in response to environmental challenges. It was less like a blueprint and more like a living, thinking system. "Our DNA isn't just a code," Arya continued. "It's a conversation, a negotiation with our environment." To demonstrate, she began a series of controlled experiments that left the alien researchers speechless. She exposed human cell samples to extreme conditions, radiation levels that should have caused immediate cellular death, temperature variations that would have destroyed any other known biological system, chemical interactions that should have been instantly fatal. The cells didn't just survive, they adapted. Zornak's lead researcher, Tickle, couldn't contain herself. "This is impossible," she muttered, her translation device capturing the mixture of scientific awe and profound confusion. Marco stepped forward, revealing a set of technological innovations that complemented the biological demonstration. Adaptive weaponry and tools that could reconfigure themselves based on environmental conditions. Protective gear that wasn't just a barrier, but a living system of interaction. "Technology is an extension of our biological adaptation," Marco explained. "We don't just create tools. We create partners." One particularly shocking demonstration involved a piece of technology that could literally reshape its molecular structure. A weapon that could transform from a communication device to a medical tool to a survival instrument, all based on the immediate needs of its user. The genetic presentation reached its crescendo with a live demonstration that bordered on the miraculous. Arya deliberately exposed herself to a combination of environmental stressors that should have been instantly fatal, a cocktail of radiation, temperature extremes, and chemical interactions that would have obliterated any other known life form. Her body responded. Cellular regeneration occurred in real time. Genetic markers shifted and reconfigured. It wasn't healing in the traditional sense. It was a complete, immediate rewriting of biological potential. "We're not unbreakable," Arya explained, her voice steady. "We're negotiable, adaptable. Every challenge is an opportunity to redesign ourselves." Zornak, the most skeptical of the alien researchers, found himself experiencing something close to fear. This wasn't just a different species. This was a fundamentally different approach to existence. Marco's technological demonstrations continued. Adaptive armor that could redistribute kinetic energy. Communication systems that could reconfigure themselves based on environmental interference. Survival tools that were less like equipment and more like living extensions of human potential. "Your technology protects you from the environment," Marco said to the stunned alien researchers. "Our technology negotiates with it." As the presentation concluded, the holographic displays showed a stunning visualization. Human DNA compared to other known species looked less like a linear code and more like a dynamic living network, a system of constant negotiation and potential. Zornak leaned forward, multiple eyes blinking in rapid succession. "What are you?" he asked, a hint of wonder replacing his previous scientific arrogance. Arya smiled. "We're human," she responded, "and we're just getting started." The research facility hung in silence, the very definition of life about to be rewritten. The Galactic Confederation's Advanced Challenge Chamber was a marvel of technological engineering. A modular environment capable of instantaneously reconfiguring itself to create the most extreme conditions imaginable. 17 distinct alien species had contributed to its design, a testament to their collective belief that no single species could overcome its ultimate tests. They were about to be proven spectacularly wrong. Dr. Arya Chen and Marco Rodriguez stood at the chamber's entrance, surrounded by a panel of the galaxy's most prestigious scientific observers. Zornak, still reeling from the previous genetic revelations, watched with a mixture of scientific curiosity and barely contained dread. "Challenge Protocol Alpha initiating," announced a multilingual computer system. The chamber's walls began to shift, molecular structures rearranging to create an environment that defied conventional understanding of survival. The first challenge was deceptively simple in description, terrifyingly complex in execution. Zero-gravity environment. Atmospheric composition changing every 90 seconds. Radiation levels fluctuating between barely survivable and instantly fatal. Structural integrity in constant flux. Any standard life support system would fail within moments. The alien observers had their prediction models ready. Survival probability: 0.00003%. Marco moved first. Where other species might have relied on technological intervention, he demonstrated a different approach entirely. His movement wasn't about fighting the environment. It was about becoming part of it. Each shift in gravity became a dance. Each radiation spike, a moment of strategic recalibration. Arya's scientific mind worked in perfect synchronization. Portable equipment modified on the fly. Communication systems reconfigured to work with the constantly changing parameters. They weren't just surviving. They were learning, adapting, transforming. The second challenge pushed biological limits even further. An atmosphere composed of compounds that should have been instantly toxic. Pressure variations that would crush most known life forms. Temperature gradients that shifted from absolute zero to plasma-level heat in microscopic increments. Till the lead alien researcher watched her monitoring systems with increasing disbelief. Human biosigns not only remained stable, they showed signs of active adaptation. "It's impossible," she muttered, her translation device capturing the pure scientific desperation in her voice. Marco's response was a demonstration of human improvisation. Using minimal equipment, he created adaptive filtration systems that worked with the toxic atmosphere rather than fighting against it. Area's biological insights allowed for rapid cellular reconfiguration that neutralized potentially fatal environmental interactions. The third challenge was a technological nightmare designed to push the limits of problem-solving and adaptive thinking. A complex system of interconnected technological and biological challenges, quantum computational problems integrated with live biological systems, environmental variables that changed at the quantum level, a test that required simultaneous technological innovation and biological adaptation. Most species would have been paralyzed by the complexity. Humans saw an opportunity. Marco's background in military strategic systems merged with Area's biological understanding. They didn't approach the challenge as a problem to be solved, but as a living system to be understood and negotiated with. Lines of code became living algorithms. Biological responses transformed into computational solutions. The boundary between technology and life became meaningfully blurred. Zornak found himself leaning forward, multiple eyes unable to track all the simultaneous adaptations happening before him. How? He finally asked, a lifetime of scientific understanding crumbling around him. Area's response was both simple and profound. "We don't see barriers," she explained. "We see opportunities for conversation." As the final moments of the challenge approached, the alien observers watched in stunned silence. The human team wasn't just surviving. They were revealing an entirely new paradigm of existence. The challenge chamber fell silent. The survival probability models burst into flames, literally and figuratively. Marco looked at Area, a slight smile crossing his face. "Shall we go again?" he asked. The galaxy would never be the same. Zornak realized he was holding his breath, a very unscientific response to what he had just witnessed. Humanity had just rewritten the definition of possible. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Confederation was a masterpiece of architectural neutrality, designed to accommodate hundreds of different species, with environmental zones that could be instantly reconfigured to suit any delegation's needs. Today, it felt more like a powder keg waiting to explode. Dr. Area Chen and Marco Rodriguez sat at the center of a diplomatic storm that threatened to tear the entire galactic political structure apart. Behind them, a holographic display continued to cycle through the evidence of their previous demonstrations: biological adaptations, technological innovations, survival scenarios that defied every known scientific principle. "We cannot allow this to continue," shouted Kivex, the crystalline representative from the Andromeda clusters. Its silicon-based body refracted light in angry, jagged patterns. "These humans represent an existential threat to every established galactic civilization." The assembly hall erupted into a cacophony of translated arguments. Holographic displays flickered with diplomatic communications, threat assessments, and real-time translation systems working overtime. Marco leaned closer to Area, his voice low. "They're more afraid than angry," he observed. "Fear makes politicians dangerous." A hidden data stream began to emerge, one that Area had carefully prepared. Evidence of systematic suppression of information about Earth, classified reports dating back centuries, diplomatic communications that showed a deliberate effort to marginalize and misunderstand human potential. "Systematic disinformation," Area announced, her voice cutting through the diplomatic chaos. "For centuries, multiple galactic civilizations have actively worked to suppress information about Earth." The holographic displays shifted. Communication logs, redacted scientific reports, diplomatic correspondences that revealed a calculated effort to keep humanity isolated and misunderstood. Zornak, who had been transformed from a skeptical scientist to an unexpected ally, stepped forward. "The data is authentic," he confirmed, his multiple eyes scanning the evidence. "This goes beyond scientific misconception. This is deliberate political manipulation." The assembly hall fell silent. The political delegations represented a nightmare of competing interests: the Silicon Confederacy, the Gaseous Collective, the Crystalline Alliances. Species that had maintained galactic power structures for millennia now found themselves facing an unprecedented challenge. "We propose a new approach," Marco said, his military background evident in every calculated word. Not isolation, not containment, collaboration. The proposal was radical. Humans weren't seeking dominance. They were offering partnership, a fundamentally different approach to galactic cooperation that threatened every existing power structure. Some delegations saw opportunity. Others saw an existential threat. A representative from the Quantum Harmonics Federation spoke up. Your adaptability is a form of technological and biological warfare, the delegate argued. How can we trust a species that can fundamentally reconfigure itself? Aria's response was both scientific and philosophical. Adaptation isn't a weapon, she explained. It's a conversation. We don't seek to replace. We seek to understand. The hidden data stream continued to reveal its secrets. Decades of suppressed scientific research. Diplomatic communications that showed a calculated effort to keep humanity isolated. Reports of human technological and biological potential that had been deliberately buried. Political alliances began to fracture in real time. Some delegations called for immediate quarantine. Others saw an unprecedented opportunity for collaboration. The Galactic Confederation's entire political structure began to shake at its foundations. Marco's strategic mind was several moves ahead. This isn't about conquest, he said. This is about a fundamental reimagining of galactic potential. A series of diplomatic challenges were proposed, not as tests of human limitation, but as opportunities for collaborative problem-solving. Environmental restoration projects, technological innovation challenges, collaborative scientific research that could benefit multiple species. Zornak found himself in an unexpected position, defending humanity's potential. They are not a threat, he argued to his fellow scientists. They are an opportunity we have never seen before. As the diplomatic session reached its breaking point, Aria and Marco represented something more than just human potential. They were a living demonstration of a different approach to existence, one of adaptation, collaboration, and continuous learning. The Galactic Confederation would never be the same. And they were just getting started. The Central Galactic Conference Hall transformed into something between a scientific symposium and a battlefield of ideas. Holographic displays stretched across impossible dimensions, capturing every nuance of the most anticipated presentation in galactic history. Dr. Aria Chen stood at the epicenter, not as a lecturer, but as a living demonstration of everything the galaxy thought it understood about life, adaptation, and potential. We are not here to conquer, she began, her voice carrying a precision that cut through multiple translation matrices. We are here to have a conversation. Behind her, a dynamic display began to unfold, a living, breathing representation of human potential that was part scientific presentation, part philosophical revolution. The first layer revealed humanity's adaptive capabilities, not just biological adaptation, but a holistic approach to existence that blurred lines between technology, biology, and pure innovation. Genetic sequences danced and reconfigured in real time. Technological systems showed a flexibility that defied traditional understanding of engineering. Marco Rodriguez stood to the side, a living counterpoint to Aria's scientific narrative. Where she spoke in molecular details and biological insights, he represented the strategic, practical application of human potential. Zornak, now a reluctant but genuine ally, provided scientific validation. His multiple eyes tracked the presentation with a combination of scientific curiosity and profound respect. The presentation attacked fundamental galactic assumptions from every possible angle. Biological adaptation. Humans didn't just survive in challenging environments. They transformed them. Cellular structures that could reconfigure in real time. Immune systems that learned and evolved faster than any known species. Technological innovation. Tools that were less about controlling the environment and more about entering into a dialogue with it. Adaptive technologies that could fundamentally reshape themselves based on immediate needs. Cultural flexibility. A society that didn't just tolerate change, but actively sought it. An approach to existence that saw challenges as opportunities for growth, not threats to be eliminated. Your civilizations build walls, Marco interjected during the presentation. We build bridges, literally and metaphorically. The holographic displays began to show comparative analyses. Galactic species that had remained relatively unchanged for millions of years. Humanity, which had transformed itself multiple times within mere centuries. But this wasn't a presentation of superiority. It was an invitation. Aria's most profound moment came when she demonstrated something beyond scientific data. She showed vulnerability. She explained the costs of adaptation, the challenges, the continuous struggle that came with constant change. We are not perfect, she emphasized. We are possible. The political delegations watched in a mixture of terror and fascination. Some saw an existential threat. Others saw an unprecedented opportunity. The Quantum Harmonics Federation, previously the most vocal opponent, began to show signs of genuine interest. Their representatives leaned forward, their quantum-based consciousness processing the implications of human potential. Marco revealed a series of collaborative project proposals. Not conquests, not submissions, genuine partnerships that could address challenges facing multiple species, environmental restoration technologies, adaptive medical solutions, collaborative problem-solving frameworks, technological innovations that could benefit multiple civilizations. The presentation was deliberately designed to be both a scientific revelation and a philosophical invitation. Zornak's translation came through with a nuance that captured the deeper meaning. We are not here to replace your systems. We are here to expand them. As the presentation reached its climax, the entire Galactic conference hall seemed to hold its collective breath. Holographic representations of different species began to interact with the human data in ways that defied previous technological limitations. It wasn't just a presentation. It was a transformation. We are not the end of your story, Aria concluded, her voice carrying a weight of both humility and profound potential. We are a new chapter. The silence that followed was not the silence of defeat, but of a fundamental reimagining of possibility. Marco caught Aria's eye. A slight nod. They both knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy would never be the same. 5 years after the paradigm-shattering presentation, the galaxy looked fundamentally different. The collaborative research station Horizon hung in orbit around a carefully selected neutral planet, a testament to the new approach to galactic cooperation that humanity had introduced. It was more than a scientific outpost. It was a living symbol of potential. Dr. Aria Chen stood at the primary observation deck, watching a delegation of 17 different species work together on a complex environmental restoration project. Each species brought something unique. The Quantum Harmonics Federation's computational models, the Crystalline Alliance's material engineering, the Gaseous Collective's atmospheric expertise, and at the center of it all, humans. Not as conquerors, not as saviors, as partners. Marco Rodriguez approached, his military background now transformed into something more nuanced, a strategic facilitator of collaborative potential. They're still trying to understand us, he said, nodding towards a group of alien researchers who were meticulously studying the human team's adaptive problem-solving techniques. Zornak, once a skeptical scientist, now served as a primary liaison between human researchers and the broader galactic scientific community. His multiple eyes tracked the collaborative efforts with a mixture of scientific curiosity and genuine respect. The station itself was a marvel of adaptive architecture. Sections could reconfigure based on the immediate needs of different species. Environmental zones shifted seamlessly. Communication systems translated not just language, but contextual nuance. A young human researcher, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, no relation to Marco, but carrying the same spirit of adaptability, was demonstrating a new approach to cross-species medical collaboration. A treatment developed through understanding, not domination. We're not solving problems for other species, Elena explained to the watching delegation. We're creating frameworks for collaborative problem-solving. The galactic political landscape had transformed. The old power structures had not been destroyed. They had been reimagined. Humanity had shown that true power wasn't about control, but about conversation. Diplomatic missions now looked fundamentally different. Where once they were exercises in carefully managed interactions, they had become genuine exchanges of potential. Human diplomats brought not just technological solutions, but frameworks for adaptive thinking. Marco's adaptive technologies had revolutionized multiple sectors. Terraforming projects that once took centuries now happened in decades. Environmental restoration became a collaborative art form. Technological innovation became a shared language. Area's biological research had opened entirely new fields of study. Understanding wasn't about classification anymore. It was about conversation. Species began to see themselves not as fixed entities, but as dynamic systems of continuous adaptation. A sudden alert interrupted the collaborative work. An unexpected stellar phenomenon was developing in a nearby system, the kind of event that would have once triggered panic and isolation. Now, it triggered excitement. Collaborative research team assembling, the station's adaptive communication system announced. Researchers from 17 different species began to move with a synchronicity that would have been impossible just years before. Zornak approached Area and Marco. "We are still learning," he said, a statement that carried the weight of profound scientific humility. The station's central display began to show the developing stellar event. But this wasn't just observation. It was a collaborative investigation. Each species contributed its unique perspective. Quantum computational models merged with biological insights. Crystalline analytical frameworks danced with human adaptive thinking. "This is what we meant," Area said, watching the collaborative investigation unfold, when we talked about conversation. The event itself became secondary to the process of understanding. 17 species, working not as competitors, but as partners in the greatest adventure of discovery. Marco caught Area's eye. A slight smile. They both knew this was just the beginning. Outside the station's observation deck, the galaxy stretched out, no longer a battlefield of competing civilizations, but a canvas of infinite potential. The myth of the Deathworld had been completely inverted. Earth was no longer seen as a place of impossible survival, but as the ultimate proving ground of adaptive intelligence. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had invited it to a conversation. And the conversation was just getting started.